The champagne flute trembled between my fingers long before I took a sip. It wasn't the chill in the ballroom or the soft hum of the jazz band. It was the way I couldn't seem to stop watching her. My wife, Lena. She was radiant beneath the golden lights of the hotel's grand hall, laughing with her colleagues, her arm brushing against a tall, sharply dressed man whose presence seemed to command the room. I recognized him from photos. Her regional director, Daniel Reed. The same man she'd spoken about endlessly these last few weeks. He's brilliant, she'd said. Charismatic, confident, visionary. And now, watching them together, I understood what she meant. The party was for the grand opening of her company's new branch, a big deal for her career. She'd spent weeks organizing the event, rehearsing her speech, obsessing over every detail. I was proud of her, genuinely. She'd worked herself raw. Tonight was supposed to be her celebration. But standing in that glittering room, something gnawed at me. An unease that wasn't jealousy exactly, but something quieter and heavier. It was the small glances between them, the subtle touches that could have been innocent. Yet, when she smiled at him, it was the kind of smile that once used to belong only to me. Lena spotted me from across the room. Her face brightened in that perfect, practiced way, and she glided over. "There you are," she said, her perfume wrapping around me like silk. "You look handsome, baby." She pecked my cheek, just enough to keep appearances. Her lipstick left a faint mark on my skin. "Couldn't let you steal all the attention," I said lightly. He chuckled. "Oh please. It's not about me tonight. It's about the team." "The team," I echoed, glancing at Daniel, who was now in deep conversation with a group of executives. Her expression softened. "Don't start, Emily. Please. I know that look." "I'm not starting anything," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just observing." "Then observe quietly," she whispered, pressing my hand before walking back toward him. Her heels clicked against the marble, each step echoing louder than the music. I wanted to follow, to stop overthinking, but the truth was I'd been noticing changes long before tonight. The late nights at the office. The guarded phone. The vague explanations that never quite matched. I told myself she was just busy, that her career demanded more from her now. I didn't want to be that insecure wife, the kind that checks messages, doubts every word, measures love in silence. But tonight that silence was screaming. A laugh erupted across the hall, hers. Daniel was telling some story, his hand resting casually at the small of her back as he guided her toward the stage. I could see it even from a distance, the intimacy of that gesture. "Emily, right?" Turned. A woman in a sleek red dress stood beside me, holding a glass of white wine. Her expression carried that polite curiosity of someone who already knew who I was. "Yes," I said. "You must be with the company." She smiled faintly. "I'm Daniel's assistant. Claire." Her name hit me with a subtle weight, though I couldn't say why. "Big night," I said. "For some more than others," she replied, her gaze flicking toward the stage. I followed it just in time to see Lena testing the microphone. Her voice light but steady. "Good evening, everyone," she began. "Tonight marks a new beginning for us. For this branch. For our future." Her tone was magnetic. Confident, graceful, everything I loved about her. But as she spoke, Daniel stood just off stage, watching her with a look that wasn't professional admiration. It was possessive. And maybe it was in my head, maybe it wasn't. But when she glanced at him mid-speech, her smile changed. Something inside me went cold. After the speech, applause filled the room. I clapped too, though my hands felt numb. Lena stepped off the stage, laughing, glowing with success. Daniel hugged her. Too long, too close. Cameras flashed, capturing their moment of triumph. Then it happened. Daniel raised his glass and said loudly enough for the crowd to hear, "A toast to Lena, the woman who makes even impossible deadlines look easy. She's the real boss here, not me." Everyone laughed, including Lena. But then his eyes landed on me. "And to her lovely wife, Emily, who somehow tolerates all the time Lena spends with us. I'm sure that takes patience." There were chuckles. A few awkward smiles. I felt heat rise to my face. Guess I should start charging by the hour, I tried to joke, but my voice faltered. Daniel smirked. You might have to, considering how much of her we borrow. The laughter grew. My stomach twisted. I saw Lena's face. She was smiling, but her eyes begged me not to react. The moment passed, the music resumed, and I felt invisible. I slipped away to the balcony for air. The night was sharp and cold. The city stretched below, glittering and indifferent. I leaned against the railing, trying to steady my breath. Inside, the celebration continued, her laughter drifting faintly through the glass doors. 4 years, I'd believed our love was unshakable. We'd built it through struggle, through the nights we shared ramen and whispered dreams of better days. I'd supported her when she quit her stable job to chase her ambitions. I'd worked extra shifts to cover bills when her startup failed. And now, here she was, successful, adored, and standing beside another woman's husband smirk. The door opened behind me. I turned, half hoping it was her. It was Claire. She hesitated, then stepped forward. Sorry if that was uncomfortable back there. Daniel, he doesn't always know when to stop. I forced a weak smile. It's fine. I'm used to being the joke. She studied me for a moment. You shouldn't be. There was something in her tone, pity maybe, or warning. I frowned. What do you mean? She looked away. Forget it. Just be careful, okay? Not everyone here has your best interests at heart. Before I could ask more, she slipped back inside. The door closed, and I was alone again, the cold seeping deeper into my skin. I stayed out there until I saw them through the glass. Lena and Daniel standing close, her hand resting on his arm, his mouth near her ear. It looked intimate, private. And for the first time since we married, I felt like a stranger looking in on someone else's life. I didn't know it yet, but that night was only the beginning. The humiliation in that ballroom was just the first crack in a truth waiting to shatter everything I thought I knew about her. About us. The ride home was quiet, but not the comfortable kind of quiet. It was the silence that presses against your skin, heavy with everything unsaid. Lena drove with one hand on the wheel, the other scrolling through congratulatory texts lighting up her phone screen. I watched her face glow in the reflection, that small, proud smile tugging at her lips. I wanted to be happy for her. I wanted to forget Daniel's mocking words, the laughter, the way she didn't defend me. But the image of them together, the closeness, the whispers, kept replaying like a cruel loop I couldn't turn off. You were incredible tonight, I said finally, my voice low. She glanced at me briefly. Thanks, babe. You think so? Of course. You always are. I hesitated, then added, Daniel seems very proud of you. She snorted softly. He's my boss, Em. Of course he's proud. I practically ran that launch single-handedly. I noticed, I said. You two make quite the team. Her hand froze mid-scroll. What's that supposed to mean? I forced a smile that hurt. Nothing. Just an observation. She sighed, putting her phone down. Emily, please don't start. Not tonight. It's been a long week. I just want to enjoy this moment. And with that, she turned up the radio, drowning out whatever was left of the conversation. I looked out the window as the city lights blurred past. The ache in my chest deepened with every mile. At home, she went straight to the bedroom to remove her makeup. I lingered in the kitchen, pouring a glass of water I didn't need. The faint sound of running water echoed from the bathroom. I stared at her phone on the counter, screen still unlocked. It was right there. Single tap away. I'd never gone through her phone before. Even when I'd felt her drifting, even when she'd started guarding it like a state secret, I'd told myself love meant trust. That looking would only break something that could still be fixed. But tonight I just wanted to know. Her notifications blinked. A string of messages from Daniel. My throat tightened. Daniel. You killed it tonight. Daniel. Still can't get over how stunning you looked. Daniel. Wish we could have celebrated properly. Then one more. Daniel. You know what I meant. I read the words twice. My pulse thundered in my ears. My fingers hovered over the screen. I knew I shouldn't, but I opened their chat. It was a graveyard of flirtation disguised as work talk, late-night messages, inside jokes, blurred compliments. Nothing explicit, but the tone said enough. That soft intimacy between people who knew they shouldn't, yet kept stepping closer to the edge. My stomach twisted. Lena's voice called out from the bathroom. Babe, can you grab me my night cream from the drawer? I locked the phone, placed it back exactly as I'd found it, and answered, Sure. I handed it to her, forcing my face into something normal. She smiled, unaware of the storm raging inches away. She leaned in, kissed me on the cheek. You okay? I'm fine. A lie, small but poisonous. The following days blurred together. She left early, came home late, always smelling faintly of his cologne. She said it was just office air, that Daniel used the same scent as their office candles. I didn't believe her, but I didn't argue either. I just watched, listened, waited. Every time her phone buzzed, she turned away. Every time I asked about her day, she gave me the polished summary, never the raw details. At night she still held me, but differently. Her touch was gentler, almost guilty, like she was compensating for something unspoken. I'd stare at the ceiling, pretending to sleep, my mind spiraling through every possible scenario. Maybe it wasn't an affair. Maybe it was just flirtation, an emotional line blurred by ambition and admiration. But then I'd remember that text. You know what I meant. And my stomach would drop all over again. A week later I decided to stop wondering. I told myself I'd surprise her at work, bring lunch, meet her team properly. Maybe seeing things firsthand would calm my nerves, or confirm what I feared. I arrived just before noon, clutching a paper bag with her favorite salad. The receptionist greeted me politely but hesitated when I asked to see Lena. She's out at the moment, she said. Meeting with Mr. Reed. Off-site. Off-site. Yes. They left together about an hour ago. My heart sank. Do you know where they went? I'm sorry, I'm not sure, she said gently. I stood there for a moment, staring at the elevator doors that wouldn't open for me. Then I smiled weakly, muttered a thank you, and left. Outside I sat in my car, the salad cooling beside me, my chest burning. I opened her location-sharing app, something she'd once insisted we both keep for safety. Her dot blinked on the screen, moving slowly across town, toward a hotel. I stared at it until the world around me blurred. When she came home that night, she smelled of champagne again. Her hair was slightly undone, her lipstick faintly smeared. Long day. Yes. She smiled tiredly. Exhausting. Daniel's been riding everyone hard about next quarter's targets. We had to go over some reports in person. At a hotel. Her eyes froze. What? I checked your location, I said quietly. You were at the Marriott downtown. She blinked too fast. Oh, that. Yeah, they booked a conference room for a client pitch. Nothing shady. Was it? I asked softly. Her gaze hardened. Emily, are you seriously accusing me right now? After everything I've been working for. I'm not accusing, I said. I'm asking. Well, maybe stop asking and start trusting. Her words cut like glass. She walked away, tossing her bag onto the couch. God, you sound like my mother. That night she slept facing the wall. I didn't sleep at all. 2 nights later I followed her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't something I was proud of. But when she said she had another late-night meeting, something inside me refused to sit quietly anymore. I waited until she left, then drove. The rain was relentless, streaking the windshield like veins of lightning. Her car led me across the city, through narrow streets, past empty cafes. Finally, she turned into the parking lot of the same hotel. The Marriott. I parked a few cars away, heart hammering. She stepped out, checked her phone, adjusted her coat, then entered through a side door. 5 minutes later, Daniel arrived. No hesitation. No pretense. He didn't even look around. They disappeared inside together. And that was it. No more maybe. No more denial. Just truth. Cold, undeniable, and bleeding. I sat there for almost an hour, gripping the steering wheel, my body trembling so hard I could barely breathe. The rain blurred everything, but not enough to hide what I'd seen. When I finally drove home, it felt like leaving a graveyard behind. Except the thing buried wasn't her. It was us. The next morning, the house smelled of coffee and deception. Lena was humming softly in the kitchen, frying eggs as if nothing in the world had changed. Her hair was damp from the shower, her cheeks still flushed from sleep, or maybe guilt. I stood by the doorway, watching her, the image of her and Daniel slipping into that hotel carved permanently into my mind. She turned, smiling when she saw me. "Morning, sleepyhead. I made your favorite." My voice came out hoarse. "Why?" Her brows knitted. "Why what? Why are you pretending?" She blinked, the spatula hovering mid-air. "Emily, what are you talking about?" I walked closer, each step heavy. "Don't. I followed you last night." The color drained from her face. "You what?" "I saw you, Lena. At the Marriott. With him." For a long second she didn't move. The eggs hissed and burned on the pan. The only sound was that faint, cruel crackle. Finally, she set the spatula down and turned off the stove. "You followed me," she said quietly. "Do you even hear yourself? How insane that sounds." "Insane." My voice broke, raw and shaking. "You're sleeping with your boss, Lena." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked away, hands trembling as she reached for the counter. "So it's true," I said, the words cutting the air. She didn't deny it. Didn't even try. A silence thicker than grief filled the room. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "It wasn't supposed to happen." I let out a bitter laugh. "That's what everyone says, isn't it? Like it's an accident, like you tripped and fell into his bed." "Don't twist it," she snapped suddenly, eyes flashing. "You don't know what it's been like for me at work, how much pressure I've been under." "Oh, please." I felt something inside me snap. "Spare me the victim speech, Lena. You didn't cheat because of work. You cheated because you wanted to." Her expression shifted, shame flickering, then anger. "I didn't plan it, Emily. I was exhausted, confused. Daniel was just there, and he understood me in ways you haven't for a long time." The words hit harder than any slap. "Understood you," I repeated. "You mean he paid attention while you tore down everything we built?" She flinched, then crossed her arms as if shielding herself. "You don't get it. We've been distant for months. You barely even look at me anymore." "I stopped looking," I whispered, "because every time I did, you were already somewhere else." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. She never cried when she was guilty. That was my role. "Say it," I said quietly. "Say you slept with him." Her silence was answer enough. I felt the air leave my body, like my lungs couldn't bear it anymore. I sat down at the kitchen table, shaking so hard I nearly dropped my cup. Lena stood across from me, her eyes darting between defiance and regret. "It's not what you think," she said finally. "It's not like we're in love or anything." I looked up slowly. "Oh, thank God," I said, my voice dripping with broken sarcasm. "You're just cheating for sport then. That's so much better." "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." "No," I said, standing now, my voice rising. "You humiliated me. You let that man mock me in front of everyone, knowing exactly what was going on behind closed doors. You laughed with him while you were lying to me. And you expect me to stop?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I said. "And now I don't even know who you are." She sank into a chair, covering her face. The strong, confident woman I'd married looked suddenly small, fragile, almost unrecognizable. "I didn't want this," she murmured through her hands. "Then why didn't you stop it?" "Yes. You had a choice, Lena. Every single time you texted him, every time you lied, you chose him over me." Her sobs came quietly then, shaking her shoulders. I should have felt satisfaction. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was emptiness. Because despite everything, a part of me still loved her. And that was the cruelest truth of all. The next few days were a blur of silence and distance. She stayed in the guest room. I avoided the kitchen when she was there. We coexisted like strangers sharing a crime scene. Her toothbrush still sat next to mine. Her jacket still hung by the door. It was all there, mocking me with the illusion of normalcy. I'd thought about leaving, packing a bag, walking out, never looking back, but something kept me frozen. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the pathetic hope that she'd do something, say something that would make sense of it all. But she didn't. Until one night she knocked on my door. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then nodded. She stepped inside wearing one of my old sweatshirts, her hair messy, her eyes rimmed red. "I need to tell you something," she said. My stomach clenched. "There's more." She nodded slowly. "It's over with Daniel. I ended it." I stared at her, trying to read her face. "When?" "Yesterday," she whispered. He wanted to keep it going, but I told him I couldn't live with myself anymore. I didn't know if I believed her. "Why now?" "Because I saw what I was becoming," she said. "I saw your face that morning and it broke something in me. I don't expect forgiveness, Emily. I just want to try to fix what I ruined." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that broken things can't always be repaired. But her voice was trembling, raw, sincere in a way that made anger hard to hold on to. "I don't know if I can," I said finally. "I'll wait," she said. "As long as it takes." She left the room quietly, and I sat there, torn in half, between the woman I'd loved and the stranger she'd become. The days that followed were a strange kind of limbo. She kept her distance but tried in small ways, cooking my favorite meals, leaving notes, checking if I'd eaten. Felt more like guilt management than love. Then one evening, while cleaning the living room, I found her phone again. Buzzed with a message. It wasn't from Daniel. It was from Claire. "I told you this would happen. He's already moving on to someone else. Are you okay?" The world seemed to tilt. Claire knew. She'd known all along. Maybe she'd even warned her. And suddenly I realized something. Daniel wasn't just a betrayal. He was a pattern. And I wasn't the first. The humiliation twisted deeper, sharper. Lena had destroyed us for a man who saw her as nothing but a replaceable mistake. That night when she came home, I handed her the phone. "You might want to text Claire back," I said coldly. She frowned, confused. Then her face drained as she read the message. "Emily." "Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Don't say another word." I walked out before she could speak, the door slamming behind me. For the first time in months, the night air felt like freedom. But beneath the freedom was grief, a grief that didn't end with walking away. Because even when betrayal ends, love doesn't just disappear. It lingers like a wound that refuses to close. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly until the city blurred into an ocean of lights, the kind that made loneliness look almost beautiful. Eventually, I pulled into an all-night diner, the kind with cracked leather booths, tired waitresses, and coffee that tasted like burned honesty. I ordered nothing. Just sat there, watching rain bead against the window. I kept seeing her face, Lena's pale shock when she read Claire's message. That flicker of guilt, fear, and something else. Maybe shame, maybe regret. It didn't matter. The damage was done. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, an idea started forming. Not out of revenge but necessity. I needed to see Daniel. To look him in the eyes. To understand what kind of man destroys a marriage so casually. The next morning I dressed carefully. Clean jeans, a soft gray sweater, nothing dramatic. I didn't want to look broken. I wanted to look calm. Lena had already left for work when I woke up. A note sat on the kitchen counter. "Please call me. Sorry. Well." I crumpled it without reading the rest. By 10 a.m., I was standing in the lobby of her company's headquarters. The receptionist looked startled to see me again. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice polite. "I'm here to see Daniel Reed. It's personal." She hesitated. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," I said, "but tell him it's about Lena." That did it. 10 minutes later, Daniel appeared, perfectly composed in a tailored navy suit. The same smug charm from the party lingered on his face. "Emily," he said smoothly, as if greeting an old friend. "Didn't expect to see you here. Everything all right?" "Not really," I said. "Can we talk privately?" He studied me for a moment, then gestured toward his office. Inside, the space reeked of money and control. Sleek furniture, expensive art, and a faint scent of his cologne. The same scent I'd smelled on Lena's skin. He closed the door behind me. "So, what's this about?" Took a breath. "I know about you and Lena." His eyebrows rose slightly, but he didn't look shocked. More inconvenienced. "I see," he said calmly. "I was wondering when that would come up. Then you admit it." He sighed and sat on the edge of his desk. "Look, Emily, I'm sorry you had to find out that way. It wasn't supposed to become complicated." "Complicated?" Echoed. "You slept with a married woman who works for you. That's not complicated. That's unethical. That's predatory." He chuckled softly. "Let's not dramatize this. Lena's not a victim. She's brilliant, ambitious, and very aware of her choices." The casual arrogance in his voice made my blood boil. "You used her," I said. "You took advantage of her loyalty, of her wanting to succeed." He smirked faintly. "You think that's all it was?" She came to me. "Not the other way around." "That's a lie." "Believe what you want," he said, leaning back. "But you should know she told me everything. About your marriage. About how distant things were. How trapped she felt." My stomach twisted. "You're trying to justify it." He shrugged. "I'm just saying people find what they need in different places. She needed attention. I gave it to her." His voice was so calm, so cruelly reasonable, that for a moment I could barely speak. Then I stood. "You're disgusting." He smiled faintly. "Maybe." But she still came back. Something inside me broke. I didn't even realize I'd slapped him until I heard the sound echo through the room. He stared at me, stunned, one hand on his cheek. "Next time you decide to play with someone's life," I said, voice shaking, "make sure they don't have someone willing to burn everything to expose you." I walked out before he could respond. My hands trembled the entire way to the elevator. When I got home, Lena was waiting on the couch. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Emily, where were you?" "I've been calling." "I went to see Daniel." The color drained from her face. "You what?" "I wanted to hear it from him. I wanted to know who you threw us away for." She looked terrified. "What did he say?" "That you went to him. That you told him everything about us. That you felt trapped." Her lips parted, trembling. "I didn't. He twisted everything." "Did he?" I said quietly. "Because that's exactly how it felt these last few months. Like you'd already decided I wasn't enough." She shook her head, stepping closer. "Emily, please, that's not true. I was lost, okay? I felt invisible. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore, and Daniel just listened. Then you should have come home and told me you were lonely," I said, my voice breaking. "Not crawl into someone else's bed." She started to cry, but I couldn't comfort her. "Not this time. I went to Claire too," I lied, though I hadn't. "She said he's done this before, with other women in the company." Lena froze, eyes wide. "What?" "Yeah. You're not special to him, Lena. You're just another notch in his corner office." She covered her mouth, shaking her head. "No, no," he said, "he promised." Her voice broke completely. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. For the first time I felt no pity. Just exhaustion. "I should have seen it," she whispered. "He told me his marriage was over, that what we had was real." "Lena," I said quietly, "you wanted to believe that because it made the guilt easier." She looked up at me, her eyes swollen red. Do you hate me? I swallowed hard. No. Her breath hitched. Then can we try again? I hesitated. I don't hate you, I said softly. But I don't recognize you either. That silence between us was unbearable. She wept quietly and I stood there, arms crossed, heart heavy. Part of me wanted to reach for her, to fix what was shattered. But the other part, the one that remembered that hotel, that laughter at the party, knew some things weren't meant to be repaired. That night, I slept in our bed for the first time in weeks. Alone. The sheets still smelled faintly of her perfume. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had been said, everything that hadn't. I realized then that forgiveness wasn't just about her. It was about me reclaiming the pieces of myself I'd given away too easily. The woman who trusted blindly. The woman who waited patiently. The woman who believed love was enough to keep someone faithful. She was gone now. And maybe that wasn't tragedy. Maybe it was rebirth. 2 weeks later, Lena packed her things. She said she was moving in with her sister for a while. She asked if there was hope for us. I didn't answer. The truth was I didn't know. But as I watched her car pull out of the driveway, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the quiet, realizing that the worst had already happened. And somehow I was still standing. Later that evening I got a message. From Claire. He's been suspended. HR opened an investigation. You did the right thing. I hadn't reported him, but someone clearly had. Maybe Lena. Maybe Claire herself. Either way, it didn't matter. Justice wasn't what I wanted. I just wanted peace. And for the first time in months, I felt the faint stirrings of it. Small, fragile, but real. I looked at my reflection in the window. The city lights shimmering behind me. For so long, I'd defined myself by what I'd lost. But now, for the first time, I was beginning to see who I might become without her. 3 months passed. People say time heals, but really it just dulls the edges. The pain doesn't leave. It just gets quieter, more familiar, like an old scar you stop tracing with your fingers. Lena hadn't called in weeks. The last message she sent said, I understand if you never want to see me again. But please know I never stopped loving you. I didn't reply. First, silence felt like revenge. Then it became a necessity. My therapist told me that closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you build yourself, brick by painful brick. So that's what I did. I started going on long evening walks again. The same ones Lena and I used to take when we first met. Back then we'd talk about dreams and travel and the life we'd build together. Now I walked alone, headphones in, the city fading into music and memory. Sometimes I'd pass couples holding hands and wonder if they too were pretending. Pretending they didn't see the cracks forming beneath the surface. Pretending forever was still possible. One night, as I was walking past the river, my phone buzzed. It was Claire. Hey, her voice was hesitant. I didn't think you'd pick up. It's okay, I said quietly. What's going on? I thought you should know, she said. Daniel resigned last week. The investigation found enough evidence to remove him quietly. Lena came forward too. I stopped walking. She confessed. Yeah, Claire sighed. She broke down in front of HR. Said she didn't want to live with the guilt anymore. I think she's in therapy too. I didn't know how to respond. Relief. Anger. Pity. They all tangled together until I just whispered, Thanks for telling me. Claire paused. She still talks about you. A lot. Closed my eyes. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. She's trying, Emily, Claire said softly. She lost everything too. After we hung up, I stood by the river, watching the current drag leaves downstream. For the first time I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't forgiving her either. But the hate had burned itself out. All that was left was space. 2 weeks later I saw her again. I was leaving a bookstore downtown when I spotted her across the street. Lena, wearing a long beige coat, hair shorter now, almost unrecognizable. She looked thinner, older. She saw me too. For a long second, Neither of us moved. The crowd flowed around us like water, but our eyes locked, two ghosts caught between what was and what could have been. Then she crossed the street slowly. "Hi," she said softly when she reached me. Her voice trembled. "Hi." She smiled faintly. "You look good." "So do you." 'Twas a lie, but a kind one. We stood there awkwardly, the air thick with memories. "I didn't expect to see you," she said. "I was just coming from therapy." He nodded. "Claire told me you quit." She looked down. "Yeah. I needed to start over. New job, new city maybe. I can't keep walking into that office knowing what I did there." I watched her carefully. "Are you happy?" She hesitated. "Trying to be." "You?" "Trying to." That made her smile again, sad but real. After a moment she said quietly, "You know, I never planned for any of this. Daniel wasn't. He wasn't what I wanted. He was just easy. When I felt invisible, he made me feel seen. But I didn't realize it came with a price." Took a breath. "Everyone pays a price when they cross that line." Her eyes welled up. "Do you think you could ever forgive me?" I looked at her. The woman I once believed would grow old with me. The woman whose betrayal had nearly destroyed me. Forgiveness used to feel impossible. But now, standing there under the faint drizzle, I realized forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant freeing myself. "I already have," I said softly. She froze, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You mean that?" He nodded. "But forgiveness isn't the same as coming back." She smiled through her tears. "I know. I just needed to hear it." We stood in silence for a while, watching cars pass. Then she reached out and touched my hand. Just once, lightly, as if saying goodbye without words. "I'll always love you, Emily," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "I know." And then she turned and walked away. I didn't call after her. I didn't cry. I just watched until she disappeared into the crowd, her figure fading like smoke. That was the moment I realized. It was truly over. Months passed again. The house no longer felt haunted. I repainted the walls, replaced the photos, even adopted a cat that followed me from room to room like a small guardian of peace. Every now and then I'd find something of hers, a scarf, a mug, a book, and instead of pain I felt a strange gratitude. Because for all the destruction she caused, Lena's betrayal forced me to rebuild myself from the ashes. I found independence I didn't know I had, strength I didn't know existed, and slowly I began to live again. One evening, while sorting through old files on my laptop, I stumbled upon a folder titled, Us. Inside were hundreds of photos, vacations, birthdays, nights spent laughing over burnt dinners. I scrolled through them, smiling at some, crying at others. Then I came across a video from years ago, Lena filming me half asleep on the couch. "Say hi, sleepyhead." "No, go away. You love me though, right?" "Always." I closed the laptop gently. Maybe love doesn't disappear. Maybe it just changes shape. It becomes softer, quieter, like a memory you no longer need to hold on to tightly. A year later I moved to a new city. New job. New friends. New version of me. One night I found myself at another office party, this time for my own promotion. Laughter, music, and the familiar clinking of glasses filled the room. A coworker leaned over and asked, "So, Emily, do you have anyone special?" Smiled. "Just me for now." He laughed. "Good answer." But later, as I stood by the balcony overlooking the skyline, I thought of Lena again. Not with pain, but with acceptance. Some people enter your life to love you. Others enter to break you open so you can finally meet yourself. Lena had been both. As I finished my drink, I noticed a message notification on my phone. From an unknown number. "Congratulations on your promotion. You deserve it." No name. But I didn't need one. I stared at it for a moment, smiled faintly, then deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because I no longer needed her validation. The past was a story I'd already finished reading. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, I was ready to write a new one. About resilience, rediscovery, and the quiet power of surviving what was meant to break you.